7 years old, I wrote my first suicide letter. I remember telling my family, dude, if you freaking hate life so much, I'm the problem.
Everybody has those negative voices, right? We've either got someone in our past somewhere that we took as a negative and it crushed us a little bit. Tell us about what yours was, and then I want to hear the positive because that's what changed you.
Totally. So everyone does have negative voices, and if not, then they're probably a psychopath, because you have good negative voices as well, right? If you're going to go to the edge of a cliff, there's the negative voice that says, don't jump off, right? There's two fears when you're born. My son's 9 months right now. The fear of falling and the fear of loud noises. Most fears after that, all fears after that though, are learned. Most of them keep us from living, not keep us from dying. So little side note there. And for me, yeah, I was in a messed up place. My parents I didn't have a perfect family. And so I speak mostly to other guys that didn't have a perfect family either, or they had a perfect family and they're still jacked up because they grew up thinking they had to be perfect, or they were perfect and they had to keep the standard. So it's so interesting how people think that I grew up with a great family, I don't have any problems. No, like, you have problems as well. Just they'll relate with other people. I grew up in a broken family. My parents split up when I was 4. I was in daycare from 0 to 2, and I was in preschool from 2 to 4. So I had this mad like separation anxiety. In 3rd grade, I had diarrhea every single day. I don't get to share that too much because I had so much anxiety at school because I was left everywhere. Like I just was dropped off places and didn't know what the heck I was supposed to do. At 7 years old, I wrote my first suicide letter. I remember telling my family, dude, if you freaking hate life so much, I'm the problem. I'm the only reason why my parents fight. That's what I thought. And when I was with my mom, I had to hate my dad, because my dad was the person that she hated. So if I liked my dad, then my mom had this issue around it, and I just wanted to be nice. So I'd be like, oh, yeah, my dad, blah, blah, blah. And then I'd be with my dad, and my dad would be like, oh, do you know that your mom makes me pay to even see you? I'm like, what? Like, that's a jerk thing to do. I remember the moment. We were riding my dad's truck, and I remember him telling me that. It's like, man, like, that's such a rude thing. I didn't know it was called child support, and it was like what you do. And so I grew up in a very dysfunctional family in that way, yet with so many positives as well. And I'm just saying some of the negatives so that people could see, man, like, oh, I had that too, or I had that same exact thing happen. One of my biggest things that I wanted was approval from my father. I love my father. Me and my dad are really good friends now. Yet I had so much pressure on me to try to get that approval from my dad that at 13 years old, I remember being in my bedroom. My dad would constantly come down the hallway. He'd go through the kitchen, down 3 steps into the garage, and out the back door. And that's where he'd smoke and drink. And at this point, like, this, people knew it wasn't the best thing to do. So that was a place where I'd kind of hide it from my stepmom. And so I'd be out there. I'd kind of have to act like nothing was going on as well. So I remember just thinking, what is the one thing I could do to get the approval of my father? Like, I legitimately pushed myself to get hurt in sports just because I saw my dad looking, but he just wasn't proud. I remember being on motorcycles and just jumping bigger and bigger and bigger until I'd crash, because I was just like, I'm right here. Like, when will he go, oh my gosh, great job, you're amazing. So I'd push myself. And this was that moment again. And I sat there and I thought, what's the one thing that my dad would want? I wanted to be a professional motocross racer, because really my dad wanted that. And his dad never supported him. So my dad always bought me the motorcycles and all the things he ever wanted, but I never asked for, which is a very interesting thing for baby boomers. Always buying all the things, like everything that they would have wanted, they give it to their kids, and they expect the same exact reaction out of their kids that they would have had, even though they were the ones that really, really wanted it, never got it, had the desire. And so it would have been amazing for them. And when we don't react the same exact way, they get upset, frustrated, think that we're ungrateful, even though we never asked for any of it in the first place. So it got to this point where I said, Dad, I want to be the best motocross racer in the world. Thought that's what he wanted. Dad, I want to get tutoring. I want to go on travel. I want to do all these things. And my dad looked at me, and I thought this was like the moment, like the movies. Son, you're the son who I'm grateful and well pleased in, all these things. He's like, you'll never be the best. And it crushed me. I was like, it was the straw that broke the camel's back, because truly deep down inside at this point, I didn't believe in myself. And that's what led me down the journey to be 60 pounds overweight. I got addicted to video games. I took all that motivation. I put it into a whole different life online. 365 days played on one game, 10 hours on average, even while going to school. I quit wrestling. I dropped from a 3.3 GPA to a 1.8 GPA. I went to summer school every single year just to be able to graduate. I had no clue what I wanted to do with my life. My number one thing that I wanted out of life was taken from me, motocross. It's gone. If you don't ride, you're not going to make it. So I had no reason to live. I had nothing to do. I was depressed. I became overweight. I would sometimes not take showers for 2 weeks at a time. Like, this is ridiculous. I was so insecure from my body image that I'd wear a sweatshirt every single day to school, even during the summer, 110 degrees outside. Oh no, I'm not hot. No, this feels comfortable. This is great. No, I was insecure about it. I had to wear logos on my t-shirts every day because I was so insecure, because I had man boobs and you couldn't see like the man boobs through the logos. Like, that's what I had to do. I used to tape down my nipples every single day. But back before pasties were a thing, right? I should have known that. I used actual tape and like taped them down to try to make myself not look as fat. And I was consistently driven by these insecurities. And so it was just this one moment where finally some kid came to school and he came with a bag of fruit and he dangled this bag of fruit out and he started eating it. At this point, dude, I was on the cinnamon roll chocolate milk diet. I was drinking chocolate milk in the summer and hot chocolate in the winter with a huge cinnamon roll that's like the size of my head. And I remember seeing this guy and I was like, what the heck? We eat orange chicken for breakfast and lunch. Like, that's what we do in high school. Why is this guy eating fruit? And just think about this for 1 second as someone listening. It sounds really dumb for me to be afraid to say, hey, why are you eating fruit? But maybe put it in the context of, you're listening to this podcast and you haven't reached out to Steve yet. You know, you can learn something from him, but it's vulnerability. And think about, for me being overweight, everyone could see my problems. I wasn't exercising, I wasn't eating correctly, and everyone could see it. Whereas all these people addicted to pornography or addicted to all these other things, alcohol, they could just do it behind closed doors and no one would ever know about it. I had all my insecurities laid out there for the world. It's like, I work out every day. They're like, no, you don't. And I remember sitting there and I had to ask for help. Like, it was almost like this bridge of like putting myself out there. I could have been rejected. What do you know, fat kid? Like, whatever. Pulled his bag of fruit and he told me, I hired a trainer. I'm doing a boxing competition. So I need to be at peak performance and I need to weigh in at the correct weight. And that almost gave me like this glimmering hope. And I realized in that moment, looking back now, there's two types of people. There's one type of person that knows everything. This is very common in today's day and age. They know all the things. They know email. They know how to break through. They know all about nutrition, and they just don't ever do any of it. But they know it all up here. They think they do. And they think that just knowing it all is good enough. And that's the people that I like to work with as well. It's because I'm really good at getting people to do things, apply the things that they know. But I was in this other state, which was I was motivated, but I didn't think that I could change my situation. Like, I looked at now reading Arnold Schwarzenegger's book, who was in a place where he was in the fittest part of his life. And he used to cover up every single good part of his body and only expose his calves. I covered up every single bad part of my body and only exposed the good things, like my hair and the angles that fit right. And I used to wear my shoes. I was so short that I used to put my heels on the back of my shoes so it looked like I was taller in pictures, but it didn't look like I was standing on my tippy toes. I was hiding everything about myself. The difference is he had embraced himself, one, and two, he knew he could change it. He knew he could grow his calves. I didn't know I could lose the weight. And so I realized in that moment, I was like, ask for the help. It was more than just losing weight at that point, because I didn't have anything to live for. But there was something inside of that spoke to me, which was the fact that I could be a higher performer. And that's all he said to me. I left there, copied the bag of fruit. I went home and like, Mom, I need this fruit. Like, I need to do something. And 6 months later, I lost the 60 pounds. That was the starting point for me. The thing that I got my power back. I went back and connected with my dad. I hadn't talked to him in 3.5 years since he said, you'll never be the best. I was ashamed. Like, right. In my family, if you could pinch an inch, so you grab your stomach, you get an inch, and if you could pinch anything in between that, you're fat. So I was fat, but not only was I fat, I knew I was doing the wrong things. I was ashamed of what I was doing, and I hid from any pressures. And right now we live in a world where there is no fathers, and even the fathers that are home, that 30% of homes don't have a father, by the way, and even the fathers that are home are passive and not real good fathers anyway. And here's the thing about fathers, as a little side note. Fathers are just leaders, ultimately. So when a leader shows up in someone's life that didn't have a good father figure, they look at them as masters, like they're trying to rule over them. The number one thing that comes up in their mind, if they haven't had a good father, is don't tell me what to do. Someone says, hey, do this. Don't tell me what to do. That's the number one way right there to know, am I living in a mentality where I didn't have a great father or a father figure in my life? And again, that doesn't have to be from some father being gone. There's lots of fathers home. They're just not there. They're just not present. They're not actually leading. And so that transformed my whole life forever, Steve. That moment of working myself first, then got me to connect with my father, then got me to put myself out there again. It then got me to start pursuing passions. It then got me to go to an event where I met my wife. My wife and I got married a year later. It then got us to start our first business together. And if I wouldn't have first peeled that first thing, like I know at our events that you've been to, Steve, at BDB Live, I spoke about that so often people say, what am I supposed to do? Like, what am I supposed to do with my life? I want to do something really big. And let's say they want to be a philanthropist. I'm like, awesome. Philanthropist is like over here. And there's like a lot of things that probably need to happen to get you to that point. So then it's what's in front of you. And so often we hear, like for me, it was, I needed to focus on my health and myself first. And I didn't know that, but I just did it. And I was stuck in limbo. And when I did it, all of a sudden I like reconnect with my dad, found my wife. All these crazy things started happening. I kept peeling on those layers. And I wasn't in my dream business in my first business. You said I was a carpet cleaner. Before that, dude, I joined network marketing and I tried to go out there and sling coffees and I failed in all of it. I lost everything. I was driving my wife in debt. I even went back and tried to be a professional motocross racer. Most people don't know this. For a whole year, I drove us in debt. I rode 4 days a week with no job and no prospering business. I was making about $750 a month for my business. And it got to the point where I had nowhere to live. I had to tell my wife that we got kicked out of our place and that we had no place we could get approved for in all of San Diego. And I sat there defeated and I said, this isn't going to happen. I'm selling the bikes. I'm getting rid of all these things that aren't taking care of my responsibilities, and I'm going to go after the dreams that I have. But each one of those things, taking action on them, is what led me quickly to where I'm at today. And I'll end it with this before the next thing that we're going to go into, Steve, is that I just wrote this down in my stories today. One of the top regrets of people out there before they die on their deathbed is I wish I pursued my dreams and aspirations and not the life others expected of me. When I wanted to lose weight, my family thought it was amazing until I wouldn't eat the food with them. Then they were like, this is so annoying. Why are you doing this? I even got made fun of by a family member when I lost the weight. I took off my shirt for the first time. They go, oh man, you look emaciated. You need to work out. After I just lost 60 pounds, just cutting me down. When I went to church for the first time, they thought it was amazing until I actually wanted to travel and help people. When I wanted to get married, they thought it was cool that we were dating until I wanted to get married at 20 years old with no job. Then they're like, oh, maybe you should get a job. When I didn't want to get a job and start a business, they all thought that it was stupid until I went out there and did it. Now my family's lost hundreds of pounds because of my example. I didn't stop. I've been married for over 8 years now, which is so wild to think about. They're like, oh, I love your relationship. It's so amazing. And now our business, like you just saw this last weekend, Steve was a part of it even. Like we sold like $500 and something thousand in a weekend, not including what we normally do in regular business stuff. And now it's like, now I'm helping my dad in his business. And it all started from back then, going against the grain and not living the life that everyone else expected of me. It's too freaking short. You don't get brownie points in heaven from somehow arriving to the grave without ever scratching the car.